More and more people are getting vaccinated, but getting the shot doesn't mean your life will change anytime soon. Our Nixon Norman tells us where these vaccines are going and what we need to know when it becomes our turn to get the shot.
Huntsville Hospital, Limestone Hospital, received their allotment of Pfizer vaccines in the last 2 weeks.
Those two facilities received 6,825 doses. We have administered about 74% of those 6,800 doses.
And more recently, local hospitals are starting to receive the Moderna vaccine, adding to the supply of vaccines in the community.
We've also started receiving the Moderna vaccine. We've got Moderna vaccine at Decatur and Helen Keller, Marshall, and Highlands. Those were just received either late last week or beginning this week. We have started administering the vaccine in those communities as well.
Vaccine distribution is starting to make its way outside of hospitals now too, and will now start heading its way to nursing homes in the area.
Around the state, nursing homes and nursing home workers have started receiving the vaccine this week. There's a federal contract with CVS and Walgreens to administer those, and they have started.
Even though the arrival of the vaccine is good news for the health community, there are things people should know and precautions that should still be taken after receiving the vaccine.
You have to continue to wear your mask when you get the vaccine. You can still infect people after you've had the vaccine. Even though you might not get sick, you can still carry enough of the virus to infect people. And you're going to have to realize that the vaccine may take up to a month before it's fully effective. So everybody's going to have to continue to stay safe and continue to mask and continue to social distance.
Putting the Valley first, Nixon Norman, WZDX News.